So it's World Youth Day, and the question would be, who is a youth? If you're one of them, then you might just want to turn things up in terms of the volume and listen attentively. Aside that, if you're not a youth and you are a parent and you do have children who are youths, well, you just might want to pay more than the usual attention so that you can get to hear what we do have in store for you. Now, this year's theme is local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond. And we do have two fantastic and amazing guests who are joining us to have this beautiful conversation and what they have in store. First, we do have Abiodun Owo, Program Manager, Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great. And also joining us this morning to also have this fantastic conversation about the World Youth Day, we do also have Mr. Kelechi Anyalechi, CEO, REVAMP Africa Foundation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So I'm happy I'm a youth, even though my colleague at the other end...
You're not a youth. Let's not embarrass
Even though my colleague at the other end is not. Olive, you cannot tell me what I am.
Exactly.
You understand?
You identify as a youth.
I'm a youth.
Okay, I identify as a youth.
I'm young.
So you both are youths as well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, all right.
Let's have a useful conversation.
Let me start off with the lady. Why is the International Youth Day particularly significant, especially for young people across Africa?
Okay, so I'll start by, drawing our attention to the fact that Africa has a peculiar demography. So if you see our continent, of all the continents in the world, Africa has the youngest population. So you find, if you look at studies, you see that like 60% of Africans are actually below the age of 25. So we have a teeming population. And what that holds for us is the fact that, in terms of productivity, our workforce, in terms of innovation and creativity, you find that, amongst young people. And you see young people doing a lot of creativity around, like we've talked about SDGs, you see in education, in health, in environment. And this kind of days actually draw attention to the kind of things that they are doing. Young people are doing great stuff, championing campaigns in environment, climate action, health, leadership. And days like this, we get to, put a spotlight on these kind of, activities, and also to draw more attention to the fact that our government, the private sector, and even the non-profit sector, the social sector like us, needs to continue to make a case for continuous investment in young people, because really they are leaders of today, of course, and tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, young people are the backbone of our economy. They're a key tool for transformation. So we can't stop talking about investing in our young people. Kelechi, why is this day significant? Which is sort of similar to what she answered. And how would you say that International Youth Day is typically being marked around the world? What are the sort of things that happen to mark International Youth Day?
Well, for me, we see the day as it's a very important day because it brings that level of consciousness to us. We're able to see the fact that these young people are the future. We know that already. But there are so many activities that go on such days all over the world. There are a lot of engagement that are done. A lot of times you even have social impact projects that are being implemented and driven by these young ones. So it has sort of brought that awareness to them, letting them know that they have a major stake in social development, whether locally or on a larger scale. So that's one of the things I know it has helped to do. That consciousness is there, and it doesn't just end with the day. It's kind of just stirs it up for them, and then you find that in the course of the year, there are several things being done, several conversations being held to just let them understand that truly you have a seat at the table.
Right. Having a seat at the table is very important. And I think that sort of ties into the theme for this year, which says local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond. The SDGs have started to sound very fancy, right? Lots of action has been made. When you look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the targets, the work that organizations and individuals have done to ensure that we achieve these SDGs. But let's now come back to talk about what the theme signifies for Nigerian youth, for African youth.
Okay, so the word there is action, and that's why I love it. It's not just about just having conversation. It's being able to act, being able to do something, at several levels, and that's what I was saying earlier that has happened. So we understand the fact that these young ones are very important. Let me bring it in terms of action. Young people, when we say this gap where age, we're saying off camera, we're looking between about 18 to 35. this is a very important time where character is being formed within themselves. They are making very strategic decisions that affect both their now and in the future. So by coming together to see that I can make a change early. You know, if you look at our history in Nigeria, we found out that even with leadership, we had many people who take up leadership responsibilities in Nigeria at the federal level, maybe as president, as governors, at a very early age. We don't see that happening so much now. But you see, what part of what this is happening is that I'm using just one of the SDGs and seeing what with education. People are getting more aware that you have a role to play. There's a lot you can do. You can contribute. You know, there are different sectors, whether you're dealing with energy, whether you're dealing with water, you're dealing with sustainable environment. You know, there are 17 critical areas, but what is important is you can plug in somewhere and you can be vitally involved in making a difference.
And what's the practicality of that? Because it looks like 2030 is around the corner. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it is.
5 years from now. A number of these goals we keep saying, oh, goal 1, goal 2, you're talking about gender equality, we're talking about zero poverty. So there are a number of these goals that look, and not just look, are very important. But what's the practicality of us achieving them by or before 2030? What needs to happen?
No, but if you look at where we're coming from, a lot of progress has been made. So I won't like for us to really focus on the 2030. You know, these things are just created to give us some planning in, you know, so that you can not just work, you know what I mean? When you're setting goals, if you don't put timelines, there's nothing to it. So a lot of progress have been made. And I know that as we're getting closer, it just, you know, has a way of just keeping everybody energized to get things done. But truly, like I said, if you see where we're coming from, a lot of progress has been made. And I know that we'll be able to meet up with quite a lot of them.
All right, let's talk about the Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation. And I'm going to talk to you, Kelechi. How is basically your foundation supporting young people to actually transform their global SDG goals? I mean, you've mentioned what the goals are, especially into what we call tangible, lasting solutions. How's your arm of your company been able to do that?
I don't believe that be Abiodun.
All right. Okay. So at Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation, we understand that the problems that the challenges that we have in Africa is humongous, of course. And one way that we have decided to step into you know, trying to resolve those challenges is to partner with the likes of, you know, REVAMP Africa Foundation, for example, and many others. We've worked with over 100 in the past 8 years. So we work in the area of health.
100?
Yes.
Wow.
That we've worked with in the past 8 years. So we have work in the area of health, for example, so in maternal and child health, for example, and that's so big in the SDGs. In environment, you know, we partner with the likes of FAVE International Foundation, who run things in climate action, in, you know, sustainable waste management and things like that. We also do stuff around enterprise development, you know, and then of course leadership, which you cannot even talk about leadership without, you know, honing in on the fact that young people need to be in the forefront of all of this. So in our little way, we're contributing to the SDGs by partnering with various organizations that intervene in these areas.
Great. And you've partnered with REVAMP Africa as well.
Oh, yes.
So talk to us about REVAMP Africa and what you're doing for young people.
Well, this is our 9th year in operations, and we provide leadership development programs and initiatives all across Nigeria. Our programs have been implemented in about 29 states. We've reached totally, I think, about 162,036 students directly. Our work is usually with children in secondary schools. For us, it's a very critical time between that age 11 to 16, when children are in secondary school, their character is formed. And we realized that there were a lot of interventions already being done by youths in university. So we organize leadership development programs for them. Our focus mostly are young ones in public secondary schools here in Nigeria, where we know that they don't have access to quality education, they don't have access to quality mentorship, the environment may not be very enabling. But we come in there and let them know that we provide an environment where they can thrive, learn basic leadership skills that help them to improve their values. I always say this, you know, and that's part of our thrust. We say REVAMP Africa, raising tomorrow's leaders today. So the leaders of the future, the leaders we have today in government, in both the private and public enterprises, were once young people. And so through REVAMP Africa, we are able to shape them by, you know, implementing value-based leadership programs to help them see how not only learning, but they are also being able to create solutions as leaders. You know, we are able to find problems and you're able to identify them. So some of our programs, and we're not just teaching them, we're getting them involved in seeing how they can start early to solve problems within their school environment and their school communities.
All right. I think that's brilliant, and it's very important, you know, leadership, giving them opportunity to see themselves, not just being seen, but also being heard, and I'm sure that that's something we'll talk about. But I want to talk about infrastructure, investment funding. What funding gaps exist, you know, where we're looking at investing in young people? What are the areas that you would say, and I'll bring that to you, Abiodun, that they have, what are the funding gaps that exist? I think actually both of you should be able to answer that.
Okay. So in terms of funding gaps, there has always been that gap. So there's, of course, financial and even non-financial, you know, gaps that we have seen. So you don't find enough initiatives or support for young persons. Even when they are present, you see a lot of limitation. There's maybe some sort of rigidity in the structure or how they should do what they want to do. And you know that young people don't like to be caged at all. Young people like to be audacious. You know, they like to do things, you know, out of the box. Besides that, I think also non-financial support. So in terms of maybe technical support, mentorship, you know, coaching, or even creating a community where they can actually strive and work together. It's not totally missing, but it's something that we need to also continue to work on, you know, in Nigeria and, of course, in Africa as a whole. So financial support, of course, to keep funding their initiative. You have a lot of startups, you know, a lot of potential that needs to be funded with money, but they're not getting enough money or as much as, you know, as they would like to. And, of course, mentorship and coaching support.
Yeah, I would say that we need more of organizations like ACT Foundation. And I say that because they've been supporting us for about 3-4 years. And for them, it's not just about the financial support they do, and that's what she was saying. There's both the financial and the non-financial support that comes in. Where I think there's a gap is that also that non-financial support that is required. So whether funding is available, you're able to let people understand how they can implement them. Yes, young people are audacious, you are creative, but you want to do something that is impactful, something that you can measure, something that can be really seen. And that's one of the great work I see that ACT Foundation has been doing over the years. And I would say that if we have more development partners like that come in and provide that kind of financial and non-financial support, we'll be able to do much more than we are doing, both here in Nigeria and across.
All right, let's also look at the aspect of infrastructure. I mean, this could form a barrier, especially for you to want to grow and become something in the future. There's poor infrastructure. We also have conversations around the limited digital access. Oh, yes, that's very key. And then mentorship. In this day and age, we've seen a lot of persons become mentors to young ones, but it often seems like it's tailored towards just certain individuals. Not everyone has access to it. So the question would be, how does your organization, or how do your organizations rather, equip them to actually overcome some of these barriers, these challenges, and then overcome what they would actually have to face in reality? I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so again, at ACT Foundation, of course, I have talked about our 4 focus areas, which is health, environment, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And I can tell you that our leadership bit is actually 100%, you know, for young persons. So when we partner with organizations like REVAMP, like we have a Junior Achievement Nigeria, for example, that, you know, trains them to even start their own companies right from secondary school. You know, you have the Brig Leadership, for example, that trains people in secondary schools, and the likes of things like that. We also have a special project that we run for people who are actually harnessing technology, you know, to drive social change. We call it Change Makers Innovation Challenge. And because of the importance that we give to young persons, this year's edition is actually for young persons aged 18 to 25. So they don't even have to have a non-profit. They don't even have to have a company already started. As long as they can demonstrate that they have started something, you know, especially harnessed with technology, then they are free to, you know, apply for their the application. So Change Makers Innovation Challenge this year is actually honing in on supporting young persons with ideas that need funding, both monetary and, of course,
so if I have an idea now, because there's somebody watching now.
Okay.
And I mean, we've talked about the aspects of, okay, the World Youth Day, what your foundations are doing, what you're offering, and so on. But I'm sure the youth who's watching this station right now, or the parent just wants to know, how can my son benefit from all of these things you are saying? How? Where should my son start from? How can he go about it? Is there any opening? Is there any further details? Where can they get it, and so on and so forth?
Okay, well, yeah, our platforms are available for that. We provide, one of the things we do also is mentorship. We work a lot of young people, and in some of our projects, we get to pair them with professionals, people in organizations who've worked. We've done a lot of work with some corporate partners, and what we do with them is we bring in their employees to come in to mentor these children, because they are like the picture of their future. And so over time, they're able to learn over a long period, and then that way it gives them that opportunity. So if they come on our website, there's a place where they can go in and make contact, and then we can provide that. For infrastructure is also another aspect we're very big on. So when we began our projects, our leadership programs especially in public schools across Nigeria, one major thing we found was this. I mean, we've gone to schools where you see children are sitting on the floor. They just put two stones, or two tires rather, and then there's just a wood there, and they have to sit like that from 8 o'clock till 2 p.m. So we have what we call the School Infrastructure Development Program, where in addition to the leadership development programs that we implement, we try to provide a better learning environment, because over time we realized that it was part of the reason for school dropout, because many of them were not comfortable to be sitting on the bare floor sometimes, or sitting on those kind of woods. And so we work together, we get these things available. We've had to buy or make available school decks for them so they don't sit on the floor. We've had to do some kind of class makeovers in different places across the country, and that has helped, in a great deal. We have a lot of young ones too, who we also have another special program in that regard, helping for digital access, so they are able to learn and develop tech skills that they can use. We saw that a number of them, as they're going high in the secondary school, their population is reducing because they don't see their future of going to the university. So we have programs that give them that opportunity to learn digital skills that they can monetize and still live out their dreams.
And I think that's a very important point you've noted there about the numbers dropping when they're in secondary school. So how can we make technical and vocational education aspirational as opposed to it being a fallback option? Because the truth is, not everybody will go to university.
True.
Not everybody is interested in education in the four walls of a tertiary institution. Some people want to learn how to make hair. Some people want to learn how to repair cars at the auto mechanic workshop. So how do we make it aspirational and not a plan B?
So we just have to keep advocating for it. Lagos State, I know that Lagos State government has done something in that regard. They now have vocational centers. They've tried to put it also in their curriculum. So what we can actually encourage is something that can become a national phenomenon, because that's the reality. So as we keep advocating for this at different levels, we can open up centers like this for these young ones and to me, it's the best thing to do. They can get in there and still enjoy quality education while still, going through that vocational centers. So it's something we're really big on. We're doing something in that regard. We also have another program that covers for that, but, as us alone, we can't do it enough. So we'll have more organizations, CSOs who come on board, but most importantly, having the government, push this, because when they come in, full force, it helps a greater deal.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question. I wanted to say you can't do everything. Our foundation cannot partner with all the NGOs in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So what role does the government play in all of this? How can the government come in? How can the government help?
Okay, so I think that the government, of course, their responsibility is to see to the fact that there's development in their countries, of course. I think that the first step is to ensure that we have inclusive policies, that actually recognize young persons as leaders and not just as people who should be recipients of aid or be recipients of some sort of support, and seeing them as people who should be part of the decision-making themselves. How many ministers do we have in Nigeria that are youth? Even starting with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. How many? Exactly. So right from the local, local council development area level, from LGA level to the state level, I think that young persons should be involved in leadership so that they experience these challenges. So they would know how to bring fresh perspective. They would know how to bring fresh ideas and solutions to actually solve those problems, because they'll be more practical because they've been part of it.
So that's younger people being involved in decision making. Is it us then saying it has to be maybe legislated, or it would become us empowering them with leadership skills? Also, bear in mind that not a lot of they're young people who are not interested in being a part of the process, right? There's an assumption, for example, politically, there's some people who would rather be on the sideline and criticize what's happening, forgetting that you can't make actual change from the outside. You have to be involved. So how do we get more young people interested and not give up because they feel like the older ones have refused to relinquish power and authority and are sitting on it?
I think it's just continuous, awareness, continuous training, so that, that mental model that we have about young persons not being able to take leadership positions has to change. Because really, leadership is not just even about position now. So that's where, for example, you find people who would rather be in the background and influence policy. So we have people like that, which is still okay. But then if you really want change to happen, then you've got to actually step into the waters and actually get your hands dirty. And we need to continue to, remind our young persons that this mindset needs to change. And let's see that, I think something would happen sometimes.
Hopefully, we'll keep our fingers crossed. But then again, great job you're doing. And we hope that we definitely would see positive results, as you've already mentioned. Thank you for being here.
And happy International Youth Day.
I mean, to me, I'm so glad to be a youth, Thank you so much. Thank you, Abiodun Owo, and of course, Kelechi Anyalechi.